Welcome to today's Net Podcast. My name's Mark from this Sign Capsules with latest bits news in the UK. Support the stories and give it an opinion. Although the news that's out there, it is basic news. Several people news effects on lives are still underreported, and generally, as many of us already know, we're underrepresented in the media. Spare this podcast as a real effect to address this balance. And the first news going to be Department of Work and Pensions. It's finalised the new disability benefits rates for 2026-27 financial year, which will officially take effect in early April. The DLA increases, rates are rising by 4% for those on the enhanced rates. Both daily living and multibility than preparing will reach £778.40. Care allowance, the weekly rate, is increasing to £86.45, and the earnings threshold is being adjusted to £204 per week to allow carers to work more hours without losing their benefit. Tenants allowance, the high rate for pensions. Pensioners requiring day-and-night care will rise to £13.50 per week. Well, it's positive news. It's right in the happens, but it's going to be a non-deflation. Not because that's good news until you found your ring, obviously. Yeah, forecast. And the fact that as of today, the 9th of March, stock markets will crash due to, obviously, turmoil in the Middle East. So, looks like pick everyone and fight takes away within a hand. Look, it's an increase. So, again, as in the previous episode, what effect really have with the increase in cost of living? Yeah, it needs to be more help out there, but obviously, in terms of economic climate, that help isn't coming anytime soon. But looks like there are clearer days ahead. Carries habits, racing, obviously, to allow kids to do more house football. Ultimately, still haven't seen any kind of real resolution to the scandal of well, the overpayment or the accusation of overpayment, etc. and so forth, carried out, and the scandal that's been unfolded in the past 18 months to 2 years. Did we really see a resolution? Did we see a nutrition of the government? Did we see compensation, etc. and so forth? I think that there have been cases here and there, but I think it was such a major scandal. Not enough was made if you really turned to do something. Any increases or not do the harm and the payments done to claimants that were justifiably being allowed previously. How I love to be so positive on this. But in the sense of positivity. In the vein of positivity, it's continuing major cost of living payments starting today to specific financial supports beginning their rollout today. Yesterday, 31 pension support, one-off payment aimed out to the households to manage winter energy costs is being distributed automatically starting today, but it's £531. And again, just as news internationally seems to be even bleaker than it has been possibly since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And £250 disability cost of living payment. The WP has confirmed a window from March 9th to 21st, 27th So that's March, not so March 27th for a £250 payment to those who said anticipated benefits PIP, DLA or the interlands to help bridge the gap for the new financial year. Again, something, but reality, it's a bigger thing. To have something more. But, yeah. Anyway, still we're trying to be positive. Historic expansions, but disabled persons rail card. As of this month, eligibility for the disabled persons rail card has been significantly expanded. You can now qualify if you hold a play badge from disabled persons play bus pass. Receive armed forces compensation for having industrial images, disablement of 20% by or are without speech but prevented by health professional. Note, a further expansion is planned for September 26 to include more new audiovisual conditions and long-term illnesses. Yeah, it's like surprised. All some of these situations whenever new considerations weren't taken into account before. I mean, if you've got a badge, I guess if you've got a blue badge and you've got bus pass, they'll say you've got a form of expected travel, but effectively, first of all, I guess if you've got a blue badge, they'll argue that you've got a car or potentially you've got transport, so you need to use the trains. So many in terms of the environment, etc., and so forth, and the fact that a lot of town centres have got, restricted traffic and whatever else, obviously it's much harder for those with mobility impairments or physical impairments affected by mobility to, well, not even that, there's all sorts of, there's so many physical impairments, but all sorts of impairments that mean that teenage soldiers, have issues in terms of issues that might affect them because having to park outside of, in, say for instance, being in the city, now with traffic restrictions, if you're having to walk long distance, etc., and so forth, it's just so sorry. Obviously, bad thing ups to mind the physical impairment, but there's other psychological factors, etc., and so forth. One might have anxiety of being out in the public, then having to walk long distance before, mind you, my levels of anxiety. So, I get the old, if you've got a blue patch, more likely to have a transport, therefore, why would you necessarily need discounted rail travel? But at the same time, in modern economy, it makes sense to have both, access to both. And let's face it, let's be honest, bringing all this in, we're at a time when they're reviewing the multiplicity, so therefore, we know what that means. That means people's eligibility for multiplicity, like ability to economically afford to even have multiplicity call if we weren't eligible, is soon to be reduced. So it is a rail card instead. So it's giving up being cynical. I was sort of saying I was trying to be positive, but let's be honest. And I do think this in well. So let's carry on with this and let's be real. And then if you want to get multiplicity, let's give you a rail pass instead. And that's very easy. And the cost of rail is prohibitive anyway. And yes, you've got discounts, but the cost of rail has been gone through the roof. For 20 years, people can fly to Barcelona for cheaper than they can go to the end of the country. Genuinely, mean if you can try across Europe, rather than go from one end of the country to the other, it's significantly cheaper. Tells you all you need to know. But there's something, and same with the bus price as well, because bus fares have gone up, obviously. See, it's cheaper than trains, but both. We've seen on this podcast many times stories about accessibility to rail and to buses. So, you know, it's what I've been getting in the past. It's quite nice that I've been able to have access onto the train, access to the train, etc. and so forth, and all the things around there, but stations being accessible and, having to book in advance and blah, 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 blah. But, hey, stick, it's something. Next story is a major update to the Personal Dependence Payment framework has been confirmed by 2006. The WP has identified roughly 700,000 co-labors with severe and lifelong conditions who will now be exempt from regular assessments. Is it will move to a 10-year light touch review cycles and for individual assessment anxiety? Well, again, some positives, but, light touch review, 10 year. Like I've said many times on this subject, lifelong 10-year review. So if it's lifelong, what's severe and lifelong? Severe and lifelong. So what are you reviewing after 10 years? I mean, just keep it at rest. Like, just lifetime awards. It's simple. End of story. In the day, we've got said people will have X amount of health records, will have X amount of, barrels from high top medical professionals, top medical departments, hospitals, some leading hospitals probably would have to go, maybe surgeries or whatever it may be, and for many, many years, for whatever condition it might be. Something's, but, are we, these are doctors and nurses that are doing these assessments, or are they basically calling their fellow professionals players? Are they called a bit to, calling their expertise into question? Because ultimately, that's what you're doing if you're reviewing, looking at that information and questioning it. To be honest, though, we don't have access to the NHS records because it's all one system, You give people the right to look at your NHS summary record, and to me that should be it. And if they want to look any further, they contact the claimant to the year or now. Don't understand this 10-year cycle, 15 years, 20 years cycle, changing, and it's just the boys in here, just the boys and girls, let's be honest, it's these contractors at us or whoever it was before, Car or whoever it is. Like I've said many times before, it's very kind of set for money for, the benefits bill, etc., etc. There's plenty of money for the contracts for these contractors to actually do these meaningless reviews for how many, how do you the percentage of these clients that have lifelong conditions that won't change? I would suggest quite a lot of a high percentage of claimants. Yes, they've got mental health, etc., and so forth, but again, you've seen someone for an hour, if the person cites some mental health issues and so forth, they've got notes, psychiatric appointments, they've got GP appointments. Are you saying something? Are you questioning the people that, professionals in the system and they're even sport off? Because effectively, you're denying the claim. It's an argument that you're, denying the expertise of your fellow professionals, perhaps, will never change, but their lifelong conditions is such a waste of time and a waste of money. And, if you eradicated a lot of that, then how much would the so-called welfare bill reduce down? And actually, they talk about the welfare bill. Do they include cost of the contracts for these reviews? Because they talk about the benefit bill? How do they break it? What is the cost of the benefits bill when that's included in terms of the excess and sexual? And to know, get a financial statement from the DWP or whatever, once the release, I must release all statements in total. There's actually a breakdown when they talk about in the media, as I've reflecting about the benefits bill, where they actually, that cost actually includes the cost of the contracts for the assessors, because, that's a significant cost as well. Or if there's a separate breakdown, and that's what they, so I've seen about you say in the media, breakdown of, or any real talk around how much those contracts are costing. Yes, there's enhancements from time to time, but, when you talk about the benefits bill, the cost of the contractors who assess, even when there's no need to assess, for long-term conditions, should be factored as well. Remember, to 2010, whenever it was, when there was an outrage of the Jobs Inc. Plus, when you worked there, whatever, the contractors, I think it was A3, they got their contracts took off them because people complained about the quality of the courses and the training, job skills training section and so forth. Basically saying that they were, be found to be a thrust on them all, and basically, ineffective. And, people don't factor that in when they talk about the cost of, benefits bill and GSA, etc. and so forth, when they froth the mouth about unemployment, etc. and so forth, these huge massive contracts that they give, what's the value for money? Because ultimately, if you're assessing people that don't need assessing, and you're charging premium for it, which is their fault, the government attempting to assess these people, then, contributing to the problem effectively, and, not being efficient, etc. and so forth. So, yeah. And the final story again, was Black Christmas, Bobby's financial relief schemes, and the water bills happiness, water shore reform. The government has announced an overhaul of the water shore scheme of for plantation slated for 2027. The groundwork laid this week means PPDLI and attendance allowance are being added to the nature of the list of qualifying benefits. You will no longer need to pay doctor's note to prove a medical condition, a simple prescription or NHS electrical supplies, and this is expected to save eligible households an average of £325 per year. So again, okay, good news there. But it's what these are still paying their shoulders, receiving the gazillions, and still issues over sewage pollution, etc. and so forth, and the cost of which is still being passed on to them. Now, cost of it, never mind that. Be a relief there. So, that's all now. Sorry, mate. This podcast is fairly cynical, but someone could use anybody listening. Speak to you later. Bye.